All right, Rippers, I know it's been a little while, and I just got to say that I, got a lot of things going on, a lot of personal work I need to do with myself. I'm sure as we all do, right? Also, a lot of physical stuff to get done, right? Improving myself there too. Lost 22 pounds so far. Yeah, not doing too bad. Just kind of having to restart at a later date, or a later age, I should say. It's scary. It can be tough at times, right? It's a little uncertain. But I guess we just take one little thing at a time, and people will just have to understand it takes as long as it takes. And you just keep moving forward. But I can hold my head up because I know that I'm a good person, and I know that I have always put others before myself. So that's one thing I can stand on. Doesn't mean I'm perfect. I'm far from it. And, I've made choices in my life I regret. And there's a passel of things that have happened throughout my life that I had no control over, and that quite honestly weren't fair or right. But what do you do, right? It's like taking on the government, because they're one of them. So that being said, I just wanted to do a quick video for you guys. I know you see them. They're down there on the table, right? Got these 1911s. Now, why I'm doing this video is because who doesn't like a 1911, right? But they're expensive. They can be. They can be anywhere from $800 to they could be $500, $800, $1,000, up all the way up to $4,000, right? And do you really get a return on the extra money spent? I personally love a deal on something, especially if it works good. I think that sometimes there's diminishing returns when you start paying a lot of money. Sure, it's sexy. Sure, it's rare. Sure, it's limited quantities. All those kind of things, but doesn't it just shoot the same and feel the same? I mean, I know there's going to be a bunch of you right there going to say like, oh no, man, these, staccatos and things like that. Well, those are 2011s, but all of those, Wilson Combat stuff, like, oh, they're just the feel. But you know what? You can make even an affordable one feel that way, or close to it, or close enough, right? What matters is that it works and that it's reliable and that you enjoy shooting it and can shoot it well, right? So that being said, I just wanted to show you guys something. One of the companies out there, now, as you can see right here, we got on this table, this is my Colt Commander in 9mm. It's a Combat Commander. It's a Colt. As you can see, it came with just basic sights on it. And then it came with, and it just had a regular beaver tail on it. So I've done some upgrades to it. I put a beaver tail on there, like an Ed Brown beaver tail. I put, ambidextrous safeties on it, right, on both sides, right, because that's always a good thing. Put a Chip McCormick hammer and trigger kit in there, springs and all that kind of good stuff, and a Chip McCormick trigger in it, as well as extended stainless steel magazine release, right? It holds 8 rounds, I think it is, of 9mm, maybe 9. And you could probably get, larger magazines that stick out just a little bit. If you do, I've always had good luck with either Ed Brown or Chip McCormick stuff, especially the magazines. Chip McCormick magazines are stainless steel with a butt pad, and they really, really do tend to work well and have never let me down. Now, I did put an Ed Brown back strap on here, and it has the spring in it, right? The main spring and back strap that's attached to this stainless steel magazine well, all nice and slim. And I put a set of Hogue grips on there, so you can customize these things in order to fit you and what you want, right? I also put, one thing I always think that every 1911 or any pistol should really have is if it has a plastic or a short stubby guide rod, or spring guide, I would replace it with either a tungsten or stainless steel full-length guide rod, right? You won't regret it. It tightens things up, makes things even more accurate. You can even get match grade bushings for your barrel bushing in the front. That'll even increase accuracy. So that's kind of what I did with this one. And the only thing that needed to be fitted really was the beaver tail, or the magazine well, because when it's at a little bit of an angle, and the bottom of the grip is flat on these 1911s, so you kind of have to file it and get it to fit right to make it look right, because it's not one that clips over everything. But this is a great little carry gun if you wanted to carry something like this. They're a little heavy, but having it in 9mm is kind of special. Now, something like this, probably, I don't know, I haven't looked it up, but anywhere from 800, maybe 6 to 800, maybe a little bit more, just depends. I have to do some research on that, but, you know, about middle of the road, you know, kind of thing. Now, then I have this one. This is my very first 1911 that I started competing with in USPSA as a D-class shooter, and actually went to an Area 1 match. Won a slot over there in that. Went to the Area 1 match and won the Area 1 as a D-class shooter. So don't think that just because you're not a great shooter that you can't win a class, right? Because if you're already a good shooter, well, they have to start you at D, right? Or they start you at unclassified till you get classifications, but then you get to a D. Now, this is a Kimber, and I know a lot of you got, oh, Kimber, blah. And I agree. The Kimbers that are made in New York City these days, when they move there, just aren't what they used to be, right? This, and what makes it extra special to me is it's made in the state I live in. This was made in Clackamas, Oregon, when they were still in Oregon and making a quality product that worked. This gun has never failed me, has always worked from day one, and has many of thousands of rounds through it, and still shoots perfectly. Like, it's a tack driver, and it's reliable as all get out. Now, I competed for many years with just this, having to do lots of magazine reloads using 10-round magazines. Now, there's only a 9-round in it right now. But when I compete, I use the 10-round Chip McCormick's in there, right? And you got to carry like 6 of them on your belt or more just to finish stages these days, because everybody else is shooting high capacity. But that gets you better at shooting, because you have to be able to plan your reloads. Where am I going to do it? You always want to try and reload on the move rather than from a stationary position if you can. So you have to go through the stage, plan where your movement's going to be, where you can reload, and practice your moving reloads so that you are able to reload out of the peripheral vision as you're moving and keeping your eye on the target. It's a trick, but you can do it, especially if you practice. Now, some things I did to upgrade this gun. Now, this gun right now is in its bowling pin, or actually steel challenge setup, because it has a really light, as you can see, a really light spring on it. So that way it's quicker, and I can shoot lighter loads. In steel, you don't have to meet a power factor, so you can shoot real light loads in there, and this way you have a light spring so that it functions reliably. And as you guys can see, now this one, the Kimber, this is the Kimber Classic Custom that they had when they first started, and it came with a beaver tail on it, which was great, because I don't like the old, the old beaver tail that the military had. This thing would bite you on the web of your hand, right? So it's got this extended beaver tail right there. So that was already on it. Again, put an Ed Brown mainspring housing that's attached to the magazine well, the flared magazine well. Put some stainless steel screws in the Hogue grip, right? This time I was liking the Hogue grips. Now it doesn't matter so much. And then I got ambidextrous safeties on both sides. Now these, as you can see, are both the wider ones. This one isn't shorter over here. Now, if you were going to be carrying, you usually have this one rebated, and you can even get a skinnier one over here. But these are meant so that when I grip the gun, and as you can see, I've got an extended slide lock as well, you can grip the gun and use this as a shelf. Now, you also see that in this grip, I've mounted a stainless steel guide right here so that way, when you grip this gun up nice and tight, you're not pushing against the slide with this thumb and causing it to malfunction or slow down. You want it to work freely and quickly, right? And as you can see, I put now this is an Arredondo, it's a polymer thumb rest. It's one of the first ones that came out. This is shortly after, you know, like I told you a story in one of my videos where I kind of started that before they were sure if they were going to allow it or not. I was one of the ones that actually brought it to the attention and had to make rulings on it because people were complaining, thinking it was an advantage. Now, this one is a real shelf on here, and I can tell you what, when you grip up into this and have both thumbs right here like this gun just works right in your hand like a 22. It's amazing the way it works. Now, this is the original trigger that came in it because it's an adjustable skeletonized trigger, but it's a plastic trigger, and it's always worked good, so why change it, right? And then also, of course, my enlarged and extended magazine release, so that way I can get good, reliable magazine drops out of there, you know, because they're supposed to drop free, right? So that's on there. And then you can see I put a high-vis front sight. At this time, I was doing a high-vis front sight, and then the rear sight I was actually customizing. And if you can see, you see how it's a V, right? Well, I just took an end mill that's shaped like a V and ran it through this channel. So instead of being square, it's tapered like a V. And the reason I did that is because when I sight up and line up the front sight with the back sight, there's more daylight in between there, so I can use it for faster target acquisition, right? I can see around that sight, right? And gives me more visual idea of where the targets are as I come across them. So that's another thing. So, and of course, like I said, the whole grip on there. This is a great firearm. You know, you have to drift the back. It's not elevation adjustable. It's got the, you know, more combat type sights on there, but it's just literally out to 50 yards even, money. So now these at the time I think were like $800 when I bought them. Now I think if you get a Kimber, they're probably getting close to 1,000 or more, right? And honestly, these were better. Now, there's nothing fancy about the finish or anything, but what makes it special to me is that it was made in Clackamas, Oregon, and I'm in Southern Oregon, so, you know, it's kind of just a sentimental thing. But, and I did put this one, I did put a match grade bushing on it and had it fitted to the barrel, or I fitted it to the barrel. And then, of course, this one probably has a tungsten full-length guide rod in it, but I put that in there so that way, and the trigger, oh, it's just butter. So, and so is the action. I mean, you can just hear it, right? So that being said, that is another option. Now, if you want to get into shooting, especially if you want to get into competitive shooting and stuff like that, you think to yourself, man, it's really expensive. You know, you got your belt, you got your magazine holders, your holster itself, all your magazines, and I mean, there's already a lot of costs, right? Ammunition, range bag, good ear protection, you know, that's mechanical, is what I advise. And you've got, you know, all your tools and things like a mag brush, you know, to clean your mags out when they hit the dirt, because you're just dropping them on the dirt when you're doing USPSA. Now, in IDPA, you have to retain your mag, which I think that discipline is more realistic to the real world than USPSA or IPSC, what we used to call it. So that being said, you got all these things, and so you're like, man, and then to dump another, and especially if you go with an STI, I mean, back when I was doing it, I built mine and you know, could do it for anywhere from $1,200 to $2,400, and now, shoot, STI is called Staccato, and you'd be paying over $4 grand for one and getting on a waiting list. So that being said, what do you do if you want to go and compete, or at least just enjoy a 1911 that you can shoot, that's reliable and well built? And I got to tell you, the Turkish companies that are out there building clones of different style iconic guns is the way to go. I mean, they're all right about 400 to 450 range, right? And they're packed with options. I'm going to show you that right now. So right now, what we got here, this is the Girsan or Girsan. I don't know. You tell me in the comment sections on how to say that. But as you can see here, it's a nice looking 1911, right? It's got a nice 7-round or 8-round magazine that comes with it. You can use the Chip McCormick 10-round magazine. It's got a good anti-tip, stainless steel anti-tip follower. Is made in Italy, these magazines are, and they work great. So that being said, you can also see that where a lot of these didn't even come with light rails or anything, you get a light rail right here, so you can put an accessory on here like this. I had this sitting around, this what is it, X300 Ultra. So a big powerful light on there, fits perfectly. Look at that. Doesn't that look sexy right there? It really does. Mount it right on there, be able to trigger it as needed, so you can woohoo, right? And the cool thing about it is they load it up with little extras. Like if you look real close, I don't know if you can tell, but this is Cerakoted in camouflage, right? It's not the most contrasting camo pattern, but it's got greens and blacks and in it. It's kind of just a green and black, olive drab and black camo scheme. It's got Novak style rear sights on here, you know, combat sights, and they're, you know, just so you can see, they're a 3-dot, right? 3 white dots on there. They're not night sights. That would be something maybe you could change later. I would. But they're good, reliable, strong sights that aren't going to get knocked around or knocked off. It's already got a performance style trigger in here, a skeletonized trigger. The trigger is really nice, like most 1911s are. And the reset, oh, there it is, reset already. Look at this. Let's do it again. Look at how short that is. I mean, that's it. And then go, right? It's got a really great trigger. In fact, better than the Colt Commander. Now, as you can see, they also put the ambidextrous safeties on there, right? And it's already got the beaver tail, the extended beaver tail on there. And while this is a polymer back strap, mainspring back strap, that has a mag well attached to it that is actually flush and really looks clean with these honeycomb style grips on there, I gotta tell you, that's cool, because that really saves a lot of work in having to match it up, you know, and do all of the fitting and stuff that you have to do with the stainless steel, and it's totally functional. And I like the idea of polymer because it's not as hard on the mag lips of the magazines. Now, it doesn't have an extended magazine release, so that's probably one thing I'll probably put in there, is an extended magazine release. But honestly, the trigger, I just leave it alone. I just slap this 300 on there, and quite honestly, if you wanted a duty weapon, I mean, look at that. Now, this is called the Girsan Untouchable MC 1911S, right? Full size, 1911, in camo, green and black. I mean, you just can't beat it for $449, and that's not on sale, right? So if you look out there, keep an eye out for Black Friday and stuff like that. You'd probably be able to pick you up one of these even cheaper, right? But this one was there. It was priced right. I worked on them a little bit, got it down a little bit more, but its original price was $449. And quite honestly, it's smooth even, right? And as it shoots in, it will start wearing in too. So you want to keep it oiled and cleaned. As you go, it'll wear in and get even smoother. All 1911s do. They just get more and more like butter. It's not real loose, but it's loose enough to function reliably. And as you can see, I replaced the guide rod with a stainless steel full-length guide rod, right? Because that is something I totally believe in. Now, I had to, when I put this bushing in, it was a real tight fit because they got the Cerakote in there. So I just had to take a little sandpaper and roll it up in a little tube-like shape. Got all that kind of eased out of there, went all the way down to 800 grit, so it's nice and smooth. And then once that bushing right here would fall through, I knew I was good, so that way I could clean and maintain this gun easily without having to beat on it with a punch or a hammer, and we were good to go. So other than that, I can't wait to get this thing out to the range and show you guys some range time with it. And get out there and get shooting and enjoy it. You can do it on a budget. Now, just so you know, it was $45.99 for this. Now, there are other ones you could get. You could get Chip McCormick, Ed Brown, or Wilson Combat. But my local shop, which I like to support, had Wilson Combat kit right here. And what it came with is an extra power firing pin spring if needed. And as you can see, the original, this is the original, instead of a full-length guide rod, this is the spring guide that's in there, and it uses the original spring. Now, the problem with that is, and then there's the original front bushing and spring right there. Now, the problem with that is that old style, it works just fine, but it actually does bind up the spring. The spring kind of, as it goes, it kind of does this in there, even though that little plunger's in there to kind of keep it straight. It kind of does get bound up, and when you take it apart too, it goes pew and can shoot away on you, right? So it's really good, and it is more accurate with the full-length guide rod, right? Plus it adds a little bit of weight out to the nose of the gun, which will help in recoil reduction as well. So there's a lot of pluses for it for what it is. They also send it with a bunch of these bushings on there, and what those bushings are is they go on the guide rod behind the spring, so that when the slide comes back, if it does tend to bump the frame, which if you have your spring rates right, it shouldn't, but if it does, that kind of gives you a little extra protection so that your slide's not beating up your frame, and that way it's beating up the bushing, and you can kind of keep an eye on your bushing to see how it looks. And that'll tell you too, if it's coming back and hitting that bushing and you see it really wearing that bushing, you might want to go up a pound on your springs. Right now, when you buy this kit from Wilson Combat, which makes great stuff, you get 2 springs in there. You get a 10-pounder, which is lighter than stock, and then you get an 18-pounder, which is heavier than stock. And a lot of that depends on the ammo you're going to shoot and how far away it's going from the gun, so you can tune your gun to be efficient and quick in its movement of the slide, right? So that being said, I hope you guys enjoyed that. Now I want to tell you, the one downside, there is a criticism I have for Girsan right now, is this is the box they sent it in. First off, it doesn't even barely fit, right? There was no second mag, and it's really kind of a flimsy box, especially when you compare it to what they've sent all their other clones in. You get this nice blue box that is fitted. As you can see here, this is the Girsan clone of a Browning high power. Comes with 3 magazines, cleaning brush, a lock, because you know we all need those locks, and but as you can see, it's a great clone. Now here's what I'm talking about: $440 something versus $1,500 plus for an original Browning in used fair shape, right? So as you can see, you got your fit case, and then the other one, again in the $400 range, is the Girsan clone of a Beretta 92, right? And this one's called the Regard MC Girsan. And again, light rail, whereas the original didn't have one. Now they do offer them now, but and quite honestly, I've been out shooting this one, and this one shoots as good or better than the original I have. Or I had, I should say. I gave it to my son for his birthday. But takes all the same 92 magazines and has all the same functions on it. And the finish is great. I mean, there's really, for the price, I think it was $400, you can't go wrong, right? So, that being said, I hope that gets you out there looking at those Turkish guns, not being, I mean, they make clone shotguns of the Benelli M4. I mean, they make all kinds of it, and they just keep coming out with more. And that is awesome, because it gets us out there shooting. And that's what we need to be doing. Get out there shooting. Let's spread the sport, spread the word, spread the fun, spread the safety. And until next time, be safe, be secure, always be aware of your surroundings, and be getting ready and prepared for something that may come your way. Till next time, adios and aloha.